Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Do this all together. Narayana Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudirayat Nashta Praeshu Abhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtiki Om Ajnana Timirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshuru Militanjena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Jai. So welcome everyone to this morning's Srimad Bhagavatam class. We are reading from Canto 7, Chapter 4. Hiranyakashipu terrorizes the universe. And we are picking up from text 38, and we'll go through to text 46. And then come back to text 38. So we have a roaming mic.
Hare Krishna.
All right.
Text 38. Prahlad Maharaj was always absorbed in thought of Krishna. Thus, being always embraced by the Lord, he did not know how his bodily necessities, such as sitting, walking, eating, lying down, drinking, and talking, were being automatically performed.
Because of advancement in Krishna consciousness, he sometimes cried, sometimes laughed, sometimes expressed jubilation, and sometimes sang loudly.
Sometimes, upon seeing the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Prahlad Maharaj would loudly call in full anxiety. He sometimes lost his shyness in jubilation and began dancing in ecstasy. And sometimes, being fully absorbed in thoughts of Krishna, he felt oneness and imitate the pastime of the Lord.
Text 41. Sometimes feeling the touch of the Lord's lotus hands, he became spiritually jubilant and remained silent, his hairs standing on end and tears gliding down from his half-closed eyes, because of his love for the Lord.
Because of his association with perfect underlined devotees who had nothing to do with anything material, Prahlad Maharaj constantly engaged in the service of the Lord's lotus feet. By seeing these bodily features, when he was in perfect ecstasy, persons very poor in spiritual understanding became purified. In other words, Prahlad Maharaj bestowed upon them transcendental bliss.
My dear King Yudhisthira, the demon Hiranyakashipu tormented this exalted, fortunate devotee, although Prahlad was his own son.
Maharaj Yudhisthira said, O best of the saints among the demigods, O best of spiritual leaders, how did Hiranyakashipu give so much trouble to Prahlad Maharaj, the pure and exalted saint, although Prahlad was his own son? I wish to know about this subject from you.
Text 45. A father and mother are always affectionate to their children. When the children are disobedient, the parents chastise them, not due to enmity, but only for the child's instruction and welfare. How did Hiranyakashipu, the father of Prahlad Maharaj, chastise such a noble son? This is what I am eager to know.
Maharaj Yudhishthira further inquired, how was it possible for a father to be so violent toward an exalted son who was obedient, well-behaved, and respectful to his father? O Brahmana, O Master, I have never heard of such a prediction as an affectionate father punishing his noble son with the intention of killing him. Kindly dissipate our doubts in this regard.
Jai. Thank you. So that's the end of this chapter, and it ends on a cliffhanger here with Maharaj Yudhisthira being very surprised at the activities of Hiranyakashipu, because we've been hearing, like yesterday's class and continuing today, we're hearing about all the exalted qualities of Prahlad, how he was such a good boy, how he was so peaceful, so sweet, so just well behaved, and also he was very devotional. He was, he was just very pious and good. He was just the best son you could ever ask for, and yet his father wanted to kill him. Yudhisthira's like, what? Why? I don't get it. What's going on here? So then we're going to hear the answer to this question in upcoming chapters. But in this today's class, we're going to continue focusing on the qualities of Prahlad Maharaj, because this is very instructive for us, right? Like we were hearing yesterday, why is it important for us to really study the character of Prahlad is so we can try to imbibe some of his qualities so that we can be that pure, transcendental, saintly devotee ourselves. So text 38 is going to talk about this. Go back to 38 and recite the Sanskrit. Asina paryatan ashnan Shayana prapiban bruvan Nanu sandata etani Govinda parirambitaha Asina paryatan ashnan Shayana prapiban bruvan Nanu sandhata etani Govinda parirambitaha. Ashina paryatan ashnan Jayana prapiban bruvan Nanu sandata etani Govinda parirambitaha. Ashina paryatan ashnan Sharanan prapiban bruvan Nanu sandata etani Govinda parirambitaha. Asina paryatan ashnan Shayana prapiban bruvan Nanu sandata etani Govinda parirambitaha. Let's do the word for word all together. Asina, while sitting. Paryatan, while walking. Ashinan, while eating. Shayana, while lying down. Prapiban, while drinking. Bruvan, while talking. Na, not. Anusandate, new. Etani, all these activities. Govinda, by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who enlivens the senses. Parirambitaha, being embraced. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Prahlad Maharaj was always absorbed in thought of Krishna. Thus, being always embraced by the Lord, he did not know how his bodily necessities, such as sitting, walking, eating, lying down, drinking and talking, were being automatically performed. Report. A small child, while being cared for by his mother, does not know how the needs of the body for eating, sleeping, lying down, passing water, and evacuating are being fulfilled. He is simply satisfied to be on the lap of his mother. Similarly, Prahlad Maharaj was exactly like a small child, being cared for by Govinda. The necessary activities of his body were performed without his knowledge. As a father and mother care for their child, Govinda cared for Prahlad Maharaj, who remained always absorbed in thoughts of Govinda. This is Krishna consciousness. Prahlad Maharaj is the vivid example of perfection in Krishna consciousness. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. So this is very nice. The word Govinda parirambitaha. So parirambitaha, I looked it up in the Sanskrit dictionary. It has two meanings. So one is embraced, and the other is being totally engrossed in. So I guess if you're being embraced by someone, then you don't have much choice but to be totally engrossed in them, right? You're fully conscious of them, and they're fully conscious of you. So it kind of the two things go hand in hand. And Srila Prabhupada brings out both aspects of that meaning of the word in his translation, because he says Prahlad Maharaj was always absorbed in thought of Krishna, so that's the idea of being always totally engrossed, thus being always embraced by the Lord. And so he uses both meanings in the translation. It's really cool how Srila Prabhupada does that. He often does that. It's interesting if you look up a word, you'll see, because Sanskrit words have many meanings, and often Srila Prabhupada he'll kind of like touch on all of the different nuances of meaning in his translation. So he does that here. And this mic is declining. I think that's it. Yeah, thank you. So Prahlad Nrsingadev is actually the incarnation who embodies the Vatsalya Bhav. So usually we think of Vatsalya Bhav as the devotee is the parent and Krishna is the child, like Madhya Yashoda's Vatsalya Bhav, right? Or Devaki's Vatsalya Bhav. But here it's the other way around, that Lord Nrsingadev comes to protect Prahlad. He is the father and Prahlad is the son. And we see that later, after Nrsingadev kills Hiranyakashipu, then he takes Prahlad on his lap, right? And he's got one arm around him and he's patting him on the head. So he's very much like in that fatherly affection mood. And so Prahlad, he's acting just like a small helpless infant, totally depending on the Lord. If those of you who are parents, you know that, or you've seen how parents with their very small children, like, just like a 1 or 2 year old child, the child doesn't have to think about anything. They don't need to think about their maintenance. The mother takes care of all of their bodily necessities, right? So the child will be, when it's time to eat, she'll just take the child and sit the child down and, be spoon feeding the child. When it's time to sleep, she'll be like, okay, she'll undress the child, put them in their pajamas, go to the bathroom, brush the teeth for them, right? Like you put the toothbrush in the mouth and literally like brush their teeth for them. And then, well, if they have teeth by that time. And then you lie them down in the bed and, make them go to sleep. Then you wake them up, you take them into the bathroom, you undress them, you get them wet, soap them up, rinse them off, dry them off, you do everything. They don't have to think about it. They don't have to think about their bodily maintenance at all. If they've been playing, okay, sit down, you need to rest now, just take it easy. Here's some water, drink it. They put the cup there to the kid's mouth. So, and your Singapore's been through all this. So, yeah, the child doesn't have to think about anything. So Prahlad Maharaj is like this. It says that he didn't even know how his bodily necessities were going on. Like how he was lying down, how he was drinking, how he was sitting, how he was walking, how he was eating. So in the same way, a small 1-year-old child, they don't have a clue even how those things are going on. The mother's just totally, or the father, the parents are just totally vigilant and just doing all the things for the child. They don't have to think about it. So this is Govinda parirambitaha. And if you don't have to think about your bodily necessities of life, then what are you going to think about? Krishna. If you don't have to think about your maintenance, you don't have to think about what you're going to eat or when you're going to eat or how you're going to eat or what you're going to wear or how you're going to, get things that you need, then you can just be totally free to think about Krishna. You don't have anything else on your mind, no anxieties, no worries, nothing. It's all taken care of. So this was the situation with Prahlad. He was so taken care of by the Lord, personally taken care of by the Lord. And not just his physical necessities, but also, his emotional needs. He was totally comforted and protected. He was embraced by the Lord. He was constantly within the loving embrace of the Lord, figuratively speaking. So like that, when we surrender to Krishna, we can just put our life in his hands. And Krishna actually wants this. These are two of the principles of surrender, is to accept the Lord as one's maintainer and accept the Lord as one's protector. There's that nice verse from Chaitanya Charitamrita that Anukulyasya sankalpa pratikulyasya varjanam rakshishyatiti vishvasa goptritve varanam tata atmanikshepa karpanye sadvida sharanagati. So these are the 6 ways, or the 6 kinds of surrender to Krishna. And so it starts off with accepting things that are favorable to the service of Krishna and rejecting things that are unfavorable. And then rakshishyatiti vishvasya, having confidence that Krishna will always protect me. And then the one that's very applicable here is goptritve varanam, accepting Krishna as one's maintainer or guardian. Specifically, this word goptritve means like a father or like a husband. So as the father takes care of the child, totally provides for the needs of the child, as the husband provides for the wife and protects the wife and takes care of her maintenance and, everything. He's like the person that she goes to when she is upset or distressed or needs something. And of course, a good husband, she doesn't even come to that point. If the husband's very good, then she doesn't get distressed because he sees it coming. He can see that, okay, she's going to get upset about this, or this situation is going to make her upset. And so he's proactive about avoiding those situations or seeing what she needs and just getting it for her before she says, hey, I kind of need something. So Krishna's like that. Krishna's that kind of husband, that kind of father, that kind of guardian who maintains us in a way that we don't even have to ask. He knows what we need. He knows what we need physically, mentally, emotionally, socially. He knows everything that we need, and he just provides it. And all we have to do is varanam, accept it. And so that's in fact, I was hearing a devotee, I think it was Haladar Maharaj was giving a seminar on this verse in Mayapur, and he kept saying that this goptritve varanam, accepting the Lord as our maintainer, out of all the 6 processes, this is the most important one. This is like the crucial one, that from this, all the other ones follow. So he was really emphasizing that this point that Krishna, that surrender means Krishna, I'm yours. I'm yours, just like a child would say that to the parents, I'm yours, I'm your child. Or a wife would say to the husband, I'm yours, I'm your wife. Take care of me. My maintenance is up to you now. So, yeah. And so someone might raise the question that how is this different from engaging the Lord in our service? Because Srila Prabhupada said that we shouldn't think of the Lord as our order supplier. If we go to the Lord that, dear Lord, please give me this, please give me that, I need this, you need to supply this. So how is this goptritve varanam, accepting the Lord as our maintainer, different from using the Lord as our order supplier? Answer.
I think in the other way, when we're saying the Lord is our order supplier, it's in regards to gratifying my senses and pleasing me, what I want to do. But in this instance, it's that I'm fully surrendered to the Lord, and so it's, yes, the Lord's maintaining me, but it's only so I can do His service,
right.
So I can serve Him, not so He can serve my senses.
Yeah, that's an important distinction. That maintain me so I can serve you. Maintain your servant so I can continue to serve you. Not give me this so I can enjoy and forget about you. I enjoy separately from you. It's all linked to Krishna. Yeah. And then another thing is that, thank you. And then another thing is that the devotee like Prahlad, he doesn't ask for anything. Like you see, even when his father was tormenting him and trying to kill him in so many ways, you don't hear that Prahlad was praying, "Dear Krishna, please protect me. Please save me from these, attempts on my life." He never asks that. He's just totally absorbed in his loving relationship with the Lord and chanting Hare Krishna and, praising the Lord. So, like that. And then somebody might also ask, well, if we're just going to depend on Krishna for our maintenance, then does that mean that we shouldn't do anything to maintain ourselves or protect ourselves? Does that mean we should just quit our jobs and, don't try to earn money and just, chant Hare Krishna and wait for Krishna to come through with the money to pay the bills and, all the stuff that we need to be maintained? What do you think? Tulsi Saki says no. Don't quit your job yet.
Is it that we do what our nature propensity is and depend on Krishna's mercy?
Yeah. So we need to act, right? We need to act according to our nature. And there's a lot in Bhagavad Gita about that we need to do work. We can't even maintain our physical bodies without work. Work done but the work should be done as a sacrifice for Vishnu. So remember that this also I'm doing for you. This is also a kind of service, right? Karma yoga, or it can be bhakti yoga if we're very devotional. So that's all good. So in that same section, chapter 3 of Bhagavad Gita, where Krishna is saying all these things that work has to be done, then there's one verse there where he says but for one who is atma rati, and for one who's fully attached to Krishna, has love for the Lord, who takes, the way Prabhupada translates it is one who takes pleasure in the self, capital S self, whose pleasure is in Krishna, has love, or rati literally means love. So has love for the Lord, who's satisfied and happy in the Lord, then for that person, there's no duty to perform. So it depends on our faith. Also, it depends on our level of absorption, our level of attachment. So if we have faith like Prahlad, if we have absorption like Prahlad, then there's nothing else that needs to be done, right? But the thing is that most of us don't have that level. We're not there yet, right? So if we're not at that level of total 100% exclusive absorption in Krishna with absolute faith and conviction that he's going to supply everything, then hold on to don't quit your jobs yet. And also if we have, some material attachments, we do, want some comforts of life that maybe, we might become insecure about if we don't have that steady source of income, then hold on to the job. So it depends, we're all at different levels, and we'll get into that a little more as we go on in this class. But Prahlad sets the example of total absorption. So that's kind of the goal, right? That work now, samadhi later. And so we're working now to try to purify ourselves. We're working through our material attachments and desires. We're engaging in the processes. We're trying to connect everything to Krishna. And we're going through anartana vritti. And we'll come out of it one day pure and clean and free from all these material attachments. And at that stage, we'll be able to be totally absorbed and just totally depend on Krishna. Of course, even in working, we're depending on Krishna because, just getting a job depends on Krishna. Being able to have the ability to work, that depends on Krishna. The result of our work depends on Krishna. So even in our attempts to maintain ourselves, it's ultimately Krishna who's maintaining us. Krishna's supplying, he's empowering, he's enabling, he's facilitating. It's all Krishna. Nothing is happening without the sanction or the will of Krishna. So, but then there's the nice verse from chapter 9, 22, where Krishna says, Ananyas chintayanto mam, ye jana paryupasate, Tesham nityabhiyuktanam yogakshemam vahamyaham. So this this is the last line's very famous, yogakshema vahamyaham, that Krishna says that to one who is, that he carries what we have and he preserves what we have and he carries what we lack. So in other words, he provides everything. And the word yogakshemam, it literally means sustenance, or your prosperity, your livelihood, your security of your property. Like literally it means like all the things that you need in your material life to survive and be comfortable and safe and happy. And that's yogakshema. So Krishna says, I carry that. I will provide all those things for you. But for who? For the person who is ananyas chintayanto mam, who has no other object of concentration but Krishna. Who yejana paryupasate. Paryupasate means who, Prabhupada translates it, properly worships. So pari means like all around. Like we had the word parirambitaha in the verse, right? It means that all around, like perimeter, right? Pari means like perimeter, like all the way around, 360 degrees around, no gaps, no gaps. So Prahlad's absorption was parirambita, totally engrossed. But when someone embraces you, it's all the way around, right? All the way around. So your worship is complete. It's all the way around. Like everything that you do is just worship. And you worship by all the 9 processes properly of devotional service. And then tesham nitya abhiyuktanam. Nitya means always. And then abhiyuktanam means always connected to the Lord, always linked in devotion, always fixed in devotion. So that person, Krishna provides everything for. No need to worry. And there's a story of one devotee. His name was Arjuna Acharya. And he was a Brahmin, and he lived in a simple home with his wife. And he was a little bit impoverished. So every day he would be chanting the holy names. He would be reading Bhagavad Gita, and sometimes he was kind of scraping by, borrowing from the neighbors or something, and he was a little bit in debt with the neighbors, and behind on paying his bills and things. And sometimes, the people would come to collect their debts, and he didn't have it. He would go door to door begging. Sometimes he was a Brahmin, so that was Brahmins go door to door begging. And people would slam the door in his face and things. So he was a little stressed about that. And then one day he was reading the Bhagavad Gita, and he came across that verse 9:22, where Krishna says that if you're just totally absorbed in me, always worshiping me, always connected to me in devotion, then I provide everything that you need. And he read that, and he became upset. He said, Krishna, you said that you provide. This is what I'm doing. I'm studying Bhagavad Gita. I'm chanting. I'm worshiping my deities. I'm always absorbed in your service. You're not maintaining me. And then he took a pen, and he scratched out that verse. He took a red pen, and he just went on his Bhagavad Gita, and he closed the book. And then he went out to walk. He went out for a walk. He was disturbed. Sometimes you're disturbed. You just go for a walk. So he went out for a walk after doing that. So his wife was at home, and then she wasn't aware of what he did. She just saw he was reading, as he always is, and then he went for a walk, as he often does, and she didn't ask any questions. So then while he was out, these 2 boys came to the house, and they were carrying these heavy baskets on their head. They were like, oh, and they were hunched over with the weight of the baskets. And then she heard them making noise, oh, this is so heavy. Oh my God. Oh, it's okay. We're almost there. And so she went out to see what was all this, the moaning and groaning about. These 2 little boys, and they were young. They were just, 7 or 8 years old. And then these huge heavy baskets on their head. They couldn't even get it off their head. She's like, okay, just wait. I'm going to help you. So she helps them put the baskets down. And then, and the baskets are full of food. They're loaded up with all kinds of fruits and vegetables and grains and ghee and even jewels and gold and all these things, all kinds of all the things desirable, all kinds of material prosperity and wealth and necessities of material life. And So she gets them out, and she says, "Who are you, and where have all these things come from?" And then the boys said, "Well, we've come from the market, and your husband came to the market today, and he demanded all these things of us, and he threatened us. He said he was going to kill us if we didn't supply these things, and we got very scared, and it was too much for us to carry, but he was beating us. He was beating us with a stick very hard on the back." And then they said, "Just look." And then they turned around and they took off their chudders, and the back was covered in like red, like lash marks, like all these red lash marks. And then, and the woman said, well, she said, "I'm so sorry that this is so unlike my husband. He's not a violent person. He's not a cruel person. I'm really surprised that he did this, but, I believe you. Anyways, I'm sorry. Please let me, you brought so many nice things. Let me prepare something. Let me cook for you." And, and they said, "No, we're afraid that your husband's going to come home and that he's going to beat us again. And we just need to get out of here. Get out of here quick." So maybe she gave them some water or something like that only, and then they left. So then within a short time, the husband came back, and he came in and he was like, feeling down still, feeling like, a little depressed. And then as soon as, when he came home, wife heard him coming. She's at the door and she's like this. She's like, "What have you done?" And then he said, "What do you mean?" She said, "Look." And then she showed him all the food and things like that and baskets of things. And he said, "Well, where did this come from? How did this get here?" And she said, "Well, you should know. You went and made demands of these small young boys, and you pressured them and threatened them and beat them and made them bring the things here. What happened to you?" And he's like, I just went for a walk. I didn't even go to the market. I don't know what you're talking about." And then he started to understand that like something mystical happened. And he said, "Wait a minute. What did these boys look like?" She said, "Well, they were very, very beautiful. They were just young boys. Maybe one was 8, one was 7, one was a little bit dark skinned, the other one was very light skinned. And they were so sweet. They had these lotus eyes that went all the way to their ears almost, and thick eyelashes and curly hair, and one was wearing blue and one was wearing yellow and like that." And he was like, "Oh my God." He was like, "Those are not ordinary boys." And then he went to his Bhagavad Gita. Oh, and she said, "And I can't believe how you beat them." And then she said, "What do you mean I beat them?" And she said, "Yeah, he showed me. Both of them showed me. They had these lash marks on their backs where you had beat them with the cane, the stick. And it was like lines going across their back, these dark red, deep lines." And he said, "Oh my God." And then he went to the Bhagavad Gita and he opened it up to that verse. And then he saw how the red lines were like there all over the verse. And he just started like crying. He was just like crying and crying. And then he explained to his wife what happened, and then she started crying. And then he said, "I'm so sorry, Krishna, I'm so sorry that I doubted you." So, yeah. So if we just depend on Krishna, then Krishna takes care of everything. And when Krishna takes care of everything, then we can just think of Krishna, which is what Prahlad was doing. And we're seeing here how, due to thinking of Krishna, then Prahlad was having all these ecstatic emotions, that sometimes he was crying and sometimes he was laughing, sometimes he was calling out loudly due to feeling separation from the Lord, and sometimes he was in jubilation. It says here, not a lot of time. Anyways, I want to read the purport to text 40. Prabhupada writes, "Prahlad Maharaj sometimes felt that the Lord was far away from him and therefore called him loudly. When he saw that the Lord was before him, he was fully jubilant. Sometimes thinking himself one with the Supreme, he imitated the Lord's pastimes, and in separation from the Lord, he would sometimes show symptoms of madness. These feelings of a devotee would not be appreciated by impersonalists. One must go further and further into spiritual understanding. The first realization is impersonal Brahman, but one must go further to realize Paramatma and eventually the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is worshipped by transcendental feelings of a devotee in a relationship of Shanta, Dasya, Sakya, Vatsalya, or Madhurya. Here the feelings of Prahlad Maharaj were in the mellows of Vatsalya, filial love and affection. As a child cries when left by his mother, when Prahlad Maharaj felt that the Lord was away from him, he began to cry. Again, a devotee like Prahlad sometimes sees the Lord is coming from a long distance to pacify him, like a mother responding to a child, saying, "My dear child, do not cry, I'm coming." Then the devotee, without being ashamed due to his surroundings and circumstances, begins to dance, thinking, "Here is my Lord is coming." Thus the devotee, in full ecstasy, sometimes imitates the pastimes of the Lord, just as the cowherd boys used to imitate the behavior of the jungle animals. However, he does not actually become the Lord. Prahlad Maharaj achieved the spiritual ecstasies described herein by his advancement in spiritual understanding. So, yeah, I like this point that Prabhupada said that, where is it? That the Lord is worshipped by the transcendental feelings of a devotee. Yeah, so we have to come to this stage of having transcendental feelings. And I have a slide that just was going to put there. This is actually, I heard a class by Swayam Bhagavan Keshava Maharaj where he showed a slide that was similar to this, talking about how as we go, as Prabhupada says, one must go further and further into spiritual understanding. So as we go deeper in our Krishna consciousness, we pass through these different stages of devotion. The class that Maharaj gave, it was called something about consistency. It was based on, the topic was consistency in our devotional service. So it's showing how our Krishna consciousness deepens by our consistent practice. And so, we go through these stages of at first just having an inclination. So Shraddha in the beginning is a very light faith, that we have an interest or we have an inclination to spiritual understanding. And then that inclination brings us to the association of devotees. And then the more we associate with devotees, the more we start to really think, wow, this is really great. I feel really good about being here. I really connect with these people. It's nice to be in a community of like-minded spiritual seekers. And then at this stage we come to identify as a devotee. Right? So just after coming to the temple for some time, associated, making friends with the devotees, you start to connect to the community. You connect to the temple, and you feel like, okay, this is my temple. These are my people. These are my friends. This is who I am. I'm a devotee. I am a member of Shri Shri Radhakala Chandji devotee community. And so when we start to identify as a devotee, as a servant of Krishna, as a member of a devotee community, then our goals in life start to change, right? Instead of thinking that the goal of life is sense gratification, we start thinking that the goal is to be a devotee, to get purified and be a pure devotee, to go back home, back to Godhead, to make this our last lifetime in the material world. And then when our goals change, then we're going to start to practice the process. So then the process starts with bhajana kriya. And bhajana kriya literally means to do bhajan, or to do worship. So then we start taking the process seriously. We start chanting Hare Krishna, doing japa, doing kirtan, studying Prabhupada's books, attending classes, doing service, like that. Under the guidance of spiritual masters, shiksha and diksha gurus. Maybe we take initiation, and by those processes, by consistently practicing the process, then we become purified. And then the shraddha that we had in the beginning that brought us into the sangha, it condenses, it becomes more thick, becomes more solidified, and it becomes a conviction. It becomes a solid conviction. Steady conviction, or we become nishta, and develops into an attraction. So at the beginning stage, at the identity stage, then the focus is on identity. So that's why the focus is on identity. So we're really trying to identify, we're trying to be accepted as a member of the community. So in order to establish our identity, we'll start to adopt the symbols of the identity, right? Like putting on neck beads to signify that I identify with this. I want to be identified. I want others to identify me as a devotee. I'll put on neck beads, I'll put on tilak, I'll wear, a sari or a dhoti, and I'll carry a bead bag. I'll get, so that people see me and they will identify me with me as a devotee, and that'll also help me to identify as a devotee because I'll feel accepted. Right? Then when we get to the second stage, the identity is established, so it's no longer a point of focus, so we don't necessarily have to have all the regalia. The identity is more of an internalized thing, and the focus is now on the process, right? So we're really focused on the process, like, okay, I need to discipline myself, I need to figure out how I'm going to manage my time so I can chant my japa, I'm going to chalk out time to read Prabhupada's books. I'm going to get up early in the morning so I can make it to the morning program, so I can follow the process of sadhana bhakti as Prabhupada wanted us to. And so the process is, and when I go through difficulties, I'm going to remember this is I'm getting purified. I just need to keep following the process. It's working. This is all good. So the focus is on the process and what the process is doing. And then as the process works and that attraction becomes more, then we come to the next stage, which is where our focus is no longer on the identity, because that's kind of like a given at this point. And it's no longer even on the process, but the focus becomes on Krishna himself. We're just focusing on Krishna. It's about Krishna. And at this point, because we develop a strong emotional connection to Krishna. So we're starting to have actual genuine devotional feelings for the Lord. And when we hear about Krishna, when we chant Hare Krishna, then there are emotions, right? There's a deep spiritual connection. There's bhava. There's some transformation in the heart. And as the heart changes, the heart melts, then love starts to grow by the mercy of Krishna, by the mercy of the Vaishnavas. Then our dormant love for Krishna awakens. And then the process at this point, when we actually have those feelings for Krishna, when we're totally absorbed in Krishna, like we see Prahlad Maharaj, then the process takes care of itself. There's no question that we're not going to chant our 16 rounds. There's no question of breaking the 4 regs. There's no question that you're going to come and take darshan or think of Krishna or, hear about Krishna, study the books, because that's just what you do. It's just because you love Krishna, you're going to do those things. Because you have feelings for Krishna, and those feelings become intensified when you chant Hare Krishna. They become intensified when you hear about Krishna. So that's what you do. Your heart drives you to do those things. It's not a question of like discipline anymore. It's that you can't not do those things because your love just impels you to do those things. So that's the stage that Prahlad Maharaj is at. And that's the stage that we can also come to if we just follow the process. So the thing to remember with this is that at every stage, the person is a devotee. In fact, even before they come to the stage of Shraddha, they're a devotee, but they're a covered devotee. So everyone is a devotee. Everyone's a part and parcel of Krishna, and at heart, we're all pure devotees, but we're just at different stages. So before even having any faith in God, maybe even if the person is an atheist, they're still a devotee. It's covered. Their devotion is covered. Their love for Krishna is covered. Their consciousness, their awareness of their self is just totally covered. But then the material world is designed in such a way as to force us to approach the Lord, right? It's designed in such a way to just bring us to our knees, to the school of hard knocks, and make us turn to the Lord and try to find shelter. And then that gives us an inclination, and that brings us to the association of devotees. And then when we come to the point of identifying as a devotee and appreciating sadhu sangha, then we become at first a casual devotee, right? So we haven't taken any vows yet. We're not committing ourselves to anything yet, but we like being with devotees. We come around, we like prasadam, we like kirtan, we like hanging out with the devotees, and it's cool, right? We're just casual. But we're still attached to our other things, so we kind of come and go. It's not too serious. It's just kind of like, yeah, it's cool. I like it. It's fun, like the devotees. So like that. But then when we start actually taking the process very seriously, then we become a committed devotee. We make commitment to the process. That's when we take vows, we take responsibility for services. You know, we sign up to do a specific service, you know, every day at a certain time, right? That I'm going to, you know, help with the cooking, or help with the cut up. I'm going to be there for this program. I'm going to give class on this day, or whatever it is. We commit ourselves to service. We commit ourselves to the process. And we may commit ourselves to, you know, a guru-disciple relationship. And then through that commitment, when we're consistently holding ourselves accountable to our commitments, when we're fulfilling our vows, when we're following through on our services very responsibly, then gradually we evolve into a confidential devotee. A confidential devotee is the devotee that we're hearing about, that's just fully absorbed in Krishna consciousness, that's constantly being embraced by the Lord. And that as a confidential devotee, you really feel that. You feel that, you know, Krishna is always there for you. He's personally making all the arrangements in your life. He's providing for all of your needs. And sometimes he feels far away, and you're like, Krishna, where did you go? What happened? You know, and then he'll come back, and you'll be like, oh, thank you so much. Thank you for reminding me that you're still there. Actually, I understand, you were always there. And Krishna's just like comforting you and giving you solace, and giving protection, providing for everything in the most wonderful way. And so that we don't have anything to think about except Krishna. And there's nothing that we want to think about except Krishna and how to serve him, and Krishna's devotees and how to serve them, and Krishna's projects and how to expand those, and you know, and all the other devotees, all at other different levels, and how to help them appreciate Krishna and become closer to the community, to identify more strongly, to follow the process more seriously, to become more committed, so that they can also become confidential devotees. Because being a confidential devotee or friend of Krishna is very, very sweet. And that's what we're meant to come to. So that's why we're studying these, the character of Prahlad Maharaj, is so that we can aspire for this. And so that we can be inspired in our practice, because it's the practice that's going to bring us to this. So we shouldn't read these descriptions and think, oh, that's Prahlad, but I'm totally on a, you know. We may not be on Prahlad's level, but it's not impossible, right? That's why these things are in the scriptures, is because we're meant to be there. Scriptures are trying to inspire us to do it. You know, Lord Chaitanya also in his pastimes, he shows us the highest stage of, you know, Mahabhav, where he's absorbed in all these ecstasies, and he gets totally lost in his meditations on Krishna's pastimes, and he falls unconscious, and he exhibits all these ecstatic symptoms. So he's not just doing that to make a show, look what a great devotee I am. He's actually showing us what we need to come to. And he's also teaching us the process that can bring us there. And in this age, the process is so easy. Lord Chaitanya has been so liberal, so magnanimous, and giving us this process of just chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. And he's invested the holy names with all the potencies of the Lord. He's invested it with prema itself, with love for the Lord. So all we need to do is keep chanting, you know, keep chanting and increasing the quality of our chanting, increasing the quantity of our chanting, and putting our full faith in this process of chanting, taking full shelter of Lord Chaitanya and Lord Nityananda, who gave us the process, who are helping us every step of the way. And it's possible that one fine day we can come to this stage of Prahlad Maharaj and being a very confidential devotee and feeling these intense emotions, ecstatic emotions in connection to Krishna, and feel that we're being totally taken care of by Krishna, totally just sitting on the lap of the Lord, comforted by the Lord's warm embrace. So I'll stop here. Any questions or comments? Yes, Lalita Sundari.
Thank you for very inspiring class, Mataji. As usual, you keep us very focused and motivated. My question is about Prahlad Maharaj. When he was in the womb, he was instructed by Narada Muni. But after that, he was not with in devotee association at all. But he was so fixed in Krishna, always absorbing Krishna consciousness. So this question is for some practical tips for me. Like my Guru Maharaj initiated me into this parampara, the same way Narada Muni initiated Prahlad Maharaj into such a potent parampara. And we have such a potent holy name. But even though I was initiated into this potent parampara, my senses are so conditioned, like I should be very careful of what I eat, what I hear, what I see, whom I associate with. And association seems have so powerful effect on me that it so easily distracts me from Krishna. But Prahlad Maharaj was once initiated, that too even when he was in his womb, and he was so fixed up in Krishna consciousness. I understand he was a pure devotee and I'm far away from him, very conditioned. But do you have any practical tips, like how we can be insensitive to our association and be fixed up with, insensitive in the sense not distracted so easily?
Mm-hmm.
I feel like I'm so conditioned that I'm so sensitive to association. Even what I see, what I talk, with whom I talk, what I eat, what I hear, everything seems so easy to disturb my mind away from Krishna. So can you give any practical tips for somebody who's in so conditioned body to aspire to become like Prahlad Maharaj? There's some baby practical steps we can take.
Yeah, so Prahlad Maharaj, he didn't have good association at all, right? He was born in a demoniac family. He went to a demoniac school full of little demon kids and demon teachers who were teaching him how to be more and more demoniac or trying to make him become demoniac. Though he was incorrigible. But yeah, the thing is that he so deeply imbibed those instructions of Narada Muni that they just became indelibly etched in his mind, in his heart. They became deeply established within his heart. So, because of his focus, because he was very focused. So, yeah, when we chant, when we hear Bhagavatam, when we are in the association of advanced devotees, then we have to really open ourselves up to hearing, right? Be fully attentive. Just put everything, when you're sitting in Bhagavatam class, just put everything out of your mind and really take it in. Try to just drink it deeply. Like Bhaktivinoda Thakur says, quaff. He uses that word quaff. Quaff deeply, just like drink deeply the nectar of the holy names. And just take it very deeply into your heart, into your mind, into your consciousness, in your intelligence. Let it just saturate every atom of your being, gross and subtle atoms of your being, and go to the soul. And then so that it stays with you, right? Don't let it be like, water that just rolls off a duck's back, We don't want it to be like that, because sometimes we do that. We come to a class and we hear it, and it's like, okay, we got some water droplets on us, but as soon as we walk out of the room, we give a little shake and it all rolls off, right? So we don't want it. We don't want to be impervious, We want to open our hearts, open our minds, let it come in, let it saturate us. Let's be like sponges and just soak it up like that. So that helps, and that's the way that Prahlad heard. So even though he heard just once from Narada Muni, over a period of time, but he was soaking it up just like a little sponge. So you have to be like that. And then when we go out into non-devotee association, then we can put on our rain jackets, then we can be impervious. Then, we can let the water fall on us. We can listen to what they say and, observe, materialistic activities out there. But then we get home and we give a little shake and we let it roll off us. But sometimes we're the opposite, right? We shake off the devotional things that we hear and experience, and we absorb, we sponge up the materialistic association. So, yeah, we have to be very expert about when to put on the raincoat and when to take it off, and just let ourselves get wet, get soaked by the spiritual sound vibration. Yeah. And then as much as possible, because after all this is Kali Yuga, and the material energy is so strong, Maya is so strong. And Prahlad was in, I think it was in Satya Yuga, right? So, or at least Treta Yuga. Anyways, it wasn't Kali Yuga. Of course, he did have a lot to contend with at home. His home was basically Kali Yuga. Living with Hiranyakashipu, that was a lot worse than what we have to live with. But yeah, in Kali Yuga, the material energy is very, very strong. The modes of passion and ignorance are very, very strong. So, we have to really take precautions and try to surround ourselves with good association as far as possible. And protect ourselves. That's our protection. Is that helpful? Would you like to add something, Nrsimharupa?
I had two thoughts actually. One was there's this story that I heard a long time ago, and I can't remember where I heard it, and I can't find the source of it. So maybe somebody in this class can help. But there was a person, and he was cursed, and he was stuck inside of a bamboo piece of like a bamboo plant. He was stuck inside the plant, and his brother went and got like an advanced devotee to come and speak Srimad Bhagavatam to help him get freed from the bamboo stick. You've heard this story before? Oh. Yes. And what was his name? Dundabi. Dundakari. So he was stuck there, and then after they speak Srimad Bhagavatam, then the bamboo breaks and he becomes liberated. And everybody came, they were also listening because this was happening, and so many of the villagers they came. But then they said, wait a minute, we were here listening also, but we didn't get liberated. Like what happened? We were here, we heard the same thing, and he got liberated, we didn't. And it was the intensity with which he was listening. He was stuck in that precarious position, and he was so intensely absorbed, is my understanding, if I'm remembering correctly. And so because of that, he was actually liberated. So I was thinking, a practice we've started before our meetings is to try to pray as intensely as we can, to really have for the guidance of Guru and Krishna and whatever we're doing. And just, during those times when we do chant our rounds or we do our spiritual practice, like the intensity with which we take that up and the focus that we give to that and how much energy we put into that is what we will get back from it. And if we put, and it's like you were saying, Prahlad Maharaj he really soaked up everything Narada Muni said. He was so listening with, of course he's a pure devotee, so it's a different example, but still, right, in our own lives, in our own way, if we are putting that much intensity towards, when we, for instance, when I chant my japa, I can just chant Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda, where I can actually think, what am I saying when I'm praying to the Panchatattva? And it's not easy to do. It's a high level to get at, but as much as possible, finding these ways to be very clear when I start my round, when I chant the Panchatattva mantra, at least every single round, I'm going to really bring my focus and intention and really pray to hear the holy name, to just be focused on that one activity I'm doing. And then when we're out going through the rest of our life, we can maybe put a little less attention to that, just the necessities that we need to do it well. But anyway, I'm just thinking as a practical way of, deeply diving in when it's the time to connect with Krishna and to do our service. And then when we have to go about our duties and do those other things, we do what we have to do, but we don't have to give it as much attention and as much intensity.
Yeah, that's good. It reminds me also when Narada Muni was speaking Bhagavatam to Prahlad, then he was in the womb of his mother. So mother was also there, Kayadu was there. And so why doesn't Kayadu become, Why did she just go back and, live her mundane life with her demoniac husband, and why doesn't she become a devotee? And it's because, it's described there that because she was just worrying. The whole time she was just worrying about her husband, worrying about the child in her womb. Now what's going to happen? Our home's been destroyed. The demigods have just like pillaged the place, and my husband's off doing austerities. God knows when he's going to come back. What if the baby's born and the father's not there? What am I going to do? And is he going to be born in this situation? And how are we going to get reconnected? And she was just in total anxiety, imagining all worst case scenarios for her baby and her husband and her family and her life the whole time Narada Muni was speaking. So sometimes we do that, right? We're in Bhagavatam class and we're thinking, oh, what about this? And how am I going to fix that? And what about this? And this could go wrong. And oh my God, this happened. And, and then we're not hearing. We're hearing but not hearing, right? It's like in one ear, out the other. So, we just have to. So that's part of it, is just letting Krishna be like, Krishna, you know what? I'm trusting you're going to solve everything. I'm trusting you to take care. You're my protector. You're my maintainer. I don't have to worry about anything. The only thing I have to worry about is how I'm going to pay attention right now to Bhagavatam class. How I'm going to pay really nice attention to my japa, and my service. And you'll take care of all these other things that would otherwise distract me. So that it goes hand in hand. Gokulananda?
Jiva Goswami mentions in Bhakti Sandarbha that these 9 stages, they are not linear. They are, but they're cumulative. Mm-hmm. So every stage is present in every other stage.
Yeah.
And then it is also said in the scriptures that up to Bhava stage, a sadhaka can fall down. Like we see Jad Bharat Maharaj, right? Mm-hmm. He fell down from Bhava stage. But if you look at Prahlad Maharaj, he was at Prema stage. So from that particular stage, it's very difficult to fall down. So when there are chosen souls like him who are on a mission, like Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada, right? When he came to the West, he didn't have any association, so to say. But they are always connected to the source. So, the thought.
Yeah, I was thinking about that when Lalita Sundari first asked the question. I was thinking about Srila Prabhupada because he heard from his guru, and he met his guru only a few times. And even in India, he didn't have a lot of association with his godbrothers. He was living sometimes in a different city, doing his business, and there weren't devotees from Gaudiya Math there, and he was kind of on his own a lot of the time. And then when he came to America, he was totally on his own. There were no devotees at all, and yet he wasn't distracted. He wasn't influenced by bad association. Because he heard so deeply, because he was so connected, with his spiritual master, always praying, always remembering, always taking shelter, like that. So if we have that consciousness of just, even when we're out in the world and not a devotee in sight, just always remembering, our Krishna, remembering Prabhupada, remembering our gurus, remembering devotees, remembering what we heard in class, chanting Hare Krishna, at least in our minds, then we're going to be safe. And Krishna will protect, if that's our consciousness. And that's what it means to surrender, is to protect, to accept Krishna as our protector in all situations, even a situation where we don't have association. Yeah. Okay, we better stop. We're way over time. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Gaura Premanandi, Hari Hari Bo. Wish everyone a happy Gaura Purnima.